Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good everything, wherever you are joining this conversation from on the planet of the earth. How are you doing? Beautiful. I'm doing super, super good. I am somewhat excited, particularly for the guest I have on the show today, and I don't want to spoil the fun, seeing her, and yes, it's a her, you just heard me now, and all that. I'm super excited. Awesome. You can see on the screen, Quintessential Medpreneur. This is a medical person who has more or less transitioned into that space of entrepreneurship, and she's made so much of herself. She's Amazon bestseller. What else? She's hold on. She's yes, I mean a host of a podcast. She has this institute she calls the EntreMD. She is a member of the Forbes Council. Who is this person I'm talking about? I know you're dying to see her, like I want to see her too. Okay, enough of the banter. Let me bring her on now. And there she is. Hi. Oh, did I take you off?
I'm here
Oh,
now.
okay. Dr. Una, how are you?
I am doing great. Thank you so much for having me on the show. We've been working on this for a while, so I'm
For
glad
a
we're making it
while.
happen.
Yes, I am super excited. When I was going through in my head going through today's activity, and I was like, what am I going to ask her based on where we're coming from, and all that. I don't want to bore my guests with that, but what am I going to ask her? That I said, no, let me allow her introduce herself before we, take that path and see where it leads us to. So who is Dr. Una?
Man, we're gonna have a lot of slashes for this one. And I really want to tell it because
Yeah,
it's important. It's
go on.
important. One of the things I strive to be is an example of what is possible, and
Yeah.
so it will be a disservice to not talk about it.
Mm,
So I'm a wife. I've been married for 16 years. I
awesome.
have four children, 14,
Amazing.
13, 8, and 7. So I have the big two and
Did,
the
did,
little two.
did you say four children?
Four children.
But you don't look it.
Yeah, but I have them. I have evidence. I have them.
Amazing, amazing. Go on.
So I have four of them. And
Amazing.
I did go to the University of Nigeria in Suka. That's where I did my medical training, and moved
Yeah.
over to the United States and trained to be a pediatrician. So I'm a pediatrician. I've been a pediatrician now for 13 years.
Mm,
I'm a serial entrepreneur. So my first business was my private practice, started
mm-hmm,
that, and then started EntreMD, which is a business we
mm,
set up to help doctors learn how to build profitable businesses so they can
okay.
live life and practice medicine on their terms. We have a marketing company. We have, real estate. So there are a number of businesses that we are
Whoa.
involved in.
Okay.
When I say we, my husband and I. And
Yeah.
then we also pastor a church. So we pastor Dominion City
Mm,
in Georgia here.
mm,
And then I also do a lot of speaking. I have a podcast that goes by the same name, the EntreMD Podcast. Actually, in all fairness, I have I
mm.
have three podcasts, and then I have the EntreMD Method book, which we released this year, which is a bestseller. And then
Mm-hmm.
yeah, and then I'm part of Forbes Business Council. Regularly contribute to Forbes. So there
Yeah.
are a lot of things, but that's me. But I'm a human. I love people. That's kind of me.
Beautiful. Your name has an Unachukwu, but I see in the US there a lot of your friends and what have you, clients, they call you Dr. Una. Now I was trying to understand, why are they calling her Dr. Una? Do they do you know why they call you that?
Well, so this is the deal. If you're Nigerian, Unachukwu is a very simple name, right? Because Chukwu is God and
Of
there's
course.
Una. That's it. It's a very simple
Yeah.
name. But
Mm-hmm.
over here it's very and I'm in the South. So Georgia Georgia is the
In
southern part. So you
Georgia.
see them, they really try really hard. But the K and the
Okay.
W and the C,
Mm,
they're having a hard time putting all this stuff together. And so
Mm.
they'll try. I've been called all kinds of things. And, eventually I was like, you know what? Just call me Dr. Una. It's fine.
But do you know what? Do you know what came to my mind? Which, come on, I'm not trying to be over myself now. The word Una, UNA, in this part of the world from where we are. You know what it stands for? In our pidgin English, that is.
I
It's
have
it, it's talking
never thought about that
exactly. It's talking
ever.
about it's talking about us. So more or
Yeah.
less, you represent a lot of us. So they are actually calling you Doctor Us, just like Doctor Strange or something. This lady is super. So we just call her Doctor Us. She speaks to each and every one of us in so many ways. So I said, I'm going to tell you this. This is the inspiration that came to me. So
Well,
that
I'm
is the
taking that.
meaning. Yes.
It never crossed my mind. It has never. And I speak pidgin English fluently, okay? But it has never
Yeah.
crossed my mind.
I know, I know, I know. So now, pediatry, what has it been like for you? Because you've been in this space for 13 years, you said?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
What has it been like?
I mean, like, I've loved it. It's very funny though. When I was in med school and people are like, "So what do you want to do after med school?" I'm like, "I don't know, but I know I don't want to be a pediatrician," like and
You
things like
don't
that.
want to be a
I I
pediatrician.
didn't want to be a pediatrician because I was like,
Ah.
the kids, their parents, all that stuff. Who wants
mm,
that? But then, what I really wanted to do was OBGYN. I just had this compassion
for the
for
for the
women.
for the sake of clarity, what does that mean? So that my audience will follow your thoughts
Yeah,
there.
so like a women's doctor.
Aha. Okay.
Yeah, so the one who would deliver the babies and take care of
Aha.
fibroids and like all those kind of
hmm
things.
Yeah.
And I think it's because I had such compassion for women when it came to women's health because of the vulnerability there, right? Like,
Right.
a woman who's infertile or a woman who's
Mm,
pregnant, there's a lot of vulnerability. And I just
mm,
felt like they needed support, and I felt like I could do that.
okay.
But in the US, I mean, they work 24-hour calls forever. And I'm like, yeah, I'm not going to do that. I have 9 lives running at the same time. I cannot do that.
Mm,
and so,
mm,
and so when I came, I was like, okay, but where can I still find the mommies though? And I was like, well, if I go to
mm,
pediatrics, I get the kids and the mommies. And so that's how I landed
mm.
up in pediatrics. Ended up falling in love with it. Really loved
Oh,
taking care of the kids and, watching them go from really sick, quick diagnosis, much better. It was a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun for me.
mm.
And for everyone who was
I
my
can imagine.
patient, they got 2 for the price of 1 because
Mm-hmm.
I could connect so deeply
Ooh.
with the women because I was
Mm.
wired to do that. That's what I wanted to do. And so, they're like, Dr. Una, you're like our therapist, or you make us feel so good. That's why we keep coming
Yeah.
back and things like that. They could feel the support. So I've
Oh,
enjoyed being a
lovely.
pediatrician. Yeah.
There's nothing like, doing what you love and you love what you do. It's like it's easy, so to say. You don't see the difficulties, you see the possibilities because you love what you do and you just want to give solutions, answers to those challenges and questions. And I hear it from your voice. It's so beautiful. Now, what has a doctor who is a pediatrician, as in she specialized in that, got to do with business within the medical field? Tell me.
Well, I mean, so this is the deal, right? For
Mm,
me, entrepreneurship was not supposed to be like in my mind. It was not part of my path. It's not something I ever thought about. It's not something that crossed my mind. Um,
mm,
but when after did my first job after my training in pediatrics, I remember my boss saying, "Okay, we're almost at the end of your first year. This has been great. Here's a 5-year contract." And I'm like, to put in
mm,
perspective, I had been married for 3 years. I had just finished the 3-year residency, so my idea of a very long time was 3 years, right? So I was
mm,
like, I'm not doing a 5-year contract, and I needed to move. So he's like, "Start your own practice." I'm like, Wait, what?" Like, nobody finishes residency, works for 9 months, and says, "I want to start my practice." And in case you missed this really ginormous bump here, like, I'm pregnant. This is not the time to start a practice, you know? And so he's like, "Well, I
mm,
mean, the thing is, everything you're going to need to do there, you're doing here." Right. And that goes back to the
mm.
law of the extra mile, which is like, wherever you are, you want to have
Yeah.
ownership of your job because you never know, right? It may not be your boss, it may be
Mm-hmm.
someone else. But either way, he's like, "Start your own practice. If you have questions, I'll help you
Mm,
start it." And then after
yeah.
that, I was just like, "Pff, whatever, like, talk to yourself." And then, our pastor came visiting, and he was like, this is the time you should start looking into owning your own business. I'm like, what is going on? Like, I don't do stuff like that. But anyway, by the time two of
Mm.
them said it, I was like, okay. And I started, looking at other practices, what they were doing, and
Yeah.
all of those things. I was like, okay. I will say ignorance is bliss, though, because I was like, okay, let's do this, because I didn't know any better. and so we started the practice, and oh my goodness, I did not realize that being a doctor, like medical school, just trains you
Mhm.
to be a doctor. It does nothing for business
Yeah.
training at
For
all.
business training. Yeah.
Nothing at all. So I was like a deer caught in headlights. I would have escaped if I could. It's just I had signed all these contracts and signed a lease and all of these things. And so
Mm.
I started, scared I started learning business principles, learning to hire, learning to fire, learning to build company culture, learning to market, learning to sell, all of those things. I was scared all the time, like all the time. And
Mm.
and
Mm.
when I finally learned that, wait a minute, this is not, because I was super shy. I was an introvert. I mean, you know me from when I was much younger. And so I was like,
Yeah.
I,
Yeah.
I can't go out there and talk to people, like network, like, oh my goodness. But then I learned that
Mm.
all business skills are learnable. It's not a personality type. There's not somebody born with the entrepreneur gene. Like, they're just learnable.
Mm.
And so I started
Yeah.
learning these things, and the business started working. And I was like, wait a minute. Here I am all this while. I've thought that I had a handicap, and I did not have
Mm.
a handicap. What happened was I just didn't have skills. And I was like, how many doctors are out there failing in their private practices, failing in their businesses, not realizing that they're just a few skills away from making it work? So that's kind
Mm.
of what started that for me. And then in the healthcare space in the United States, there are a lot of changes that have been made where it became very obvious that if you don't have business skills, you are not going to thrive,
Going
period.
anywhere.
Yes.
Mm.
And so that's what
Mm.
led me to start EntreMD, started doing events,
Mm.
started doing one-on-one coaching, then started a group
Yeah.
program, then started the EntreMD Business School, which is 2.5 years now. It's crazy.
Beautiful.
And so that's what started that whole journey. And it's not just, doctors doing medical businesses. It really is doctors doing whatever business they want to do. Because I'm like, you
Mm.
follow the prescribed way up to this point. Now at this point, you get to choose what you want to do. So it's a lot of
Beautiful.
fun. It's so much fun.
You can say that again. But now, to the part of when I mean, your should I say your boss said one or two things, and you were like, nah, it's not for me. And you went to church, and your boss's boss, if you understand what I mean by that, now spoke through. And it's like, hello, this is what I created you for. And it's like, come on, what's happening? Why is everybody, like we say in Nigeria, hitting big bass and all that? What is this? What's happening? And somehow you accepted it. How did your husband, because you're in this with him, how did he take it, and what's the support? Can we
Yeah.
hear that?
So my husband he's an entrepreneur at heart, and he's not in he's an introvert, but he's not as shy. He's like a bulldozer. Let's knock things down, right? And
Mm.
so he was all for it.
Mm.
I was the person who was like, I'm not about that life. Like, everybody should leave me alone. So he was all for it. So he's been very, very supportive, like, the entire time. And people ask me
Yeah.
a lot about this as far as their spouses. But one of the things that I've done, and which I tell people, is a lot of times we talk a lot, right? I want to do this, I want to do that. The next week I want to do this other thing. The next week I want to do that other thing. And I'm like, talk less and do more,
Talk
right? And
less and do more.
yeah, like, if you're like, this is what I did, or, I've always been so scared, and whatever, I said yes to that speaking gig, and I told them how much to pay me, and I got it. It's
Mm.
easier to get behind that than talk that changes every 2 weeks, right? Especially dreamer
Mm.
talk, like, oh, I could do this, and next week I'll do this. Maybe I should do that, because all you're doing is you're showcasing your uncertainty. And I'm not saying you won't be
Mm.
uncertain. There is some uncertainty, but talk less and do more, right? Like, do something, kill something, and drag
Do
it in and say,
something.
look what I did. It makes it easier for
And
someone to get behind you on that.
exactly. And doing something would show, would I say, the strength you really have in the weakness that you thought you had. Because, whoa, I didn't know I could write for this long. I didn't know I could hold a single thought for this long. and somehow like a tendon, you're flexing it every day and the muscles are building up there. That's what I hear you say. Now let's talk about your Forbes Council journey. When I saw your name on that list, I was like, this lady keeps just pushing the boundaries and all that. How did it come? Tell me, how did it come?
Yeah, so the Forbes Council is kind of like a invite only private membership within the Forbes community, and yeah, and it's based
Okay.
on revenue generated. Like you have to cross a certain ceiling in your business for you to be invited for it. So I had a number of friends who were in it. I got an
All right.
invitation to apply for it, and I
Hmm.
applied for it, and voila, they were like, yeah, you're welcome, and I'm like, this is very interesting. Like, I've always thought about Forbes, but I never
Hmm.
thought about my name in the same sentence, but this is fascinating. And there and there are multiple
Yeah,
opportunities, like, to contribute to articles and things like that, which is a very fascinating world. There are
beautiful.
people who are on the council but will never write, and I was like, "Yeah, we're gonna
Mm,
do that." So I take time to
mm,
write, so, like,
mm.
every other month or things like that, and
Yeah,
it's been
yeah.
interesting. It's a fascinating community
Beau-
too.
Beautiful. Now, for your Enter MD program, and I've seen a couple of them, here and there, people coming around and all that. What has it been like for people who, would I say, are where you've been, and it's like courageously now they are moving up where you are? Tell us, what has it been like
Like, the people in the school? The people in the EntreMD Business School?
in the school? Yes,
Oh my goodness, let
yes,
me tell
Enter MD
you.
school.
That when I think about the EntreMD Business School, I think about, what would potentially be one of the there are going to be many things like that, but one of the greatest things that I'll do with my life, like my legacy, because
Hmm.
physicians don't necessarily get a business education, and to put myself in a position where we've created this thing where people can get a business education, it's phenomenal. So I've had people come
Mm,
in and they're like, I want to start a private practice, but I'm not sure if I can. I'm like, of course you can. Like, you could learn, you could learn to intubate babies, you could learn to do surgery, you can figure
mm,
this out. And
mm,
to watch them after a year, and they've launched the practice, and they've had like 2,400 patients, and they're
mm.
really pushing towards their first million. It is an insane thing to watch. It is so insane.
Beautiful.
So we've had people do that. We have people like, I've wanted to launch a podcast for the last 2 years. I'm like, we're doing it this month, and they launched
Mm,
their podcast, and now they're getting speaking, paid speaking opportunities from it and things like that.
beautiful.
To watch people
Yeah.
who, and I don't advocate they all quit their jobs. Like, a number of them are what we'll call entrepreneurs, so they're working jobs
Mm,
but they show up as entrepreneurs. And so I have people who, they're full-time employees, but they've learned to own their brand, they've learned to own their voice, they've learned to decide what mark they want to make in the world. They understand the language of business, so now they're negotiating for better
yes.
pay, they're negotiating for 4-day work weeks, they're negotiating to get a scribe so they don't have
Mm,
to do their notes by themselves anymore. And when the CEOs
mm.
and CMOs and things are having, like, so the executives are having high level conversations, they're invited into those rooms, right? Because
Right.
they're entrepreneurs, so
Yes.
seeing that, or people who are like, I want to be a coach, that's what I want to do, I don't really want to be in the exam room anymore, and see them build
Yes.
that and build it out. It's a profitable business. And the funny thing is, we've had things like that. We've had people come in like, I want to hit my first million, and they do it. We have people cross to multiple seven figures. Like, we have the whole from 0 to 7 million in revenue. But it's so
Mm,
fascinating that, because business is a means to an end. Business is not the end, right? It's a tool to help you go somewhere. And so then to
right.
watch people then say, I love everything that's happened in my business because of the business school, but the best thing that happened to me because I'm in this school is my marriage is better, right? Is
Whoa.
my marriage
Good.
is better.
Right.
Or I had the freedom now, and now I'm pregnant with twins. I've been trying. Like, it's so crazy. Or I found myself. Like, I've been lost all
Mm,
these years, and I found myself. It's so crazy. And for everyone listening, it's kind of like,
yeah.
what has been on your heart to do, embrace it, because you don't truly know what will happen on the other side. You have no idea,
Mm,
but it's good.
no
It's
idea.
really
Beautiful.
good. Yeah.
Now, lis- listening to you now is like the business school is not just addressing business issues alone. It is a wholesome school. It's addressing other issues, and it's like this has improved automatically, the other follows. So there's this resonance, so to say, okay, I'm better in this now, and the energy flows into the other path. That is what I hear you say, and it is amazing. And from where I stand, what I see there is somebody who has a good understanding of the spiritual essence behind business. Why am I doing this? It is not just because of the money, but looking at the value that I am creating and bringing into people's lives. That's what I hear you say. And this is so beautiful. Now, let me ask, this program, do we have any opportunity for those of us in Nigeria, in Africa? Because I don't know if it's virtual or on site. Tell us. Let's
No,
see.
it's not. It's not on site. It's virtual. Actually,
Oh,
I think we've had 9 countries so far, in the
hmm,
school. It's not
okay.
on site. It's virtual. It's year long, and so actually, yeah. So we have, what do we have? Hong Kong. We have Paris. We have UK. We have Australia. We have Canada. We have a number of countries. We don't have Nigeria yet, I don't think. But yeah. But yeah, soon.
Why?
Very soon.
Why
Because I
don't
haven't
we
been on
have
your
Nigeria?
podcast. Because I haven't been on your podcast yet.
Now you're here. So
Now I'm
sell,
on your
sell.
podcast. So
Yes. So now let's sell that product. Now go ahead. Tell my audience within this space, within Africa and Nigeria, what they stand to benefit from this Enter MD program. Go ahead.
yeah, so the EntreMD Business School it really is a school like no other. We say it's the number one
Hmm,
business school for physicians who want to build 6 and 7 figure businesses, and really
okay.
it really is for the person who is mission driven. Like, I want to create value, I want to create change in the world, but I want to build a business
Hmm,
system around it so that I have the freedom to do it the way I want to do it, right? Because no margin, no mission. That's really the way
right.
it works.
Yeah.
And so if that
Hmm,
is something that you've been thinking about, but you're like, I can't find my way, to the US to do an MBA, or I can't find my way to this, this is the place for you. And we're not focused on you getting an additional piece of paper. We're not focused on you learning the
hmm,
concepts. We are focused on you implementing the concepts you learn. That's what we're about. So we're about results, not pieces of paper. We have enough of those as
okay.
physicians, right? It's about you
Hmm,
getting the
hmm,
results. And so it is a school, it's a year-long program. We have about 140 doctors in it at this point. So you have access to the most unbelievable community. We had an
beautiful.
in-person event. In that in-person event,
Okay.
14% of the doctors there were above the 7-figure mark, if you can imagine
Whoa.
that.
Hmm,
14%. And so
hmm.
it is the most
Impressive.
unbelievable
Impressive.
community. You have the connections to everybody you need in one room.
Hmm.
So if it's something you've been thinking about, then it's something you want to take a look at. It is application only, but it's entremd.com
Okay.
forward slash business. And
Okay.
it's the school for you. We have a
Is it
good number of Nigerians, but we don't have Nigerians in Nigeria yet.
in Nigeria? Okay. So is it specifically for medical doctors or those within the medical field?
Specifically for doctors.
Specifically for doctors. Okay. So
Yeah.
now I have a segregation I have to deal with now. You know, there's a
Well,
segregation there now. Don't mind me. I was only joking.
no,
That's
but
what your
well,
call is.
yes,
Hmm.
yes, that is 100%
Yeah.
what I'm called to. I'm very clear on it. However,
Exactly.
there
Yes.
are a lot of people in the healthcare space who are part of the
Mm,
community who binge on the EntreMD podcast. And the EntreMD
mm,
podcast is not a fluffy podcast. It's not an
mm.
ad. There's some podcasts that are ads, like the
Yeah.
whole thing. It
Yeah.
really is where I lay out my best work. Like, you would see, 7 things you need to
Mm,
change on your way to your next million, how to sell
mm,
confidently, how to fall in love
mm,
with your offer, how to convert
mm,
your payroll from an expense to an investment, how to, like, all of those
Beautiful.
things. So the
Yeah.
mindsets, the actions, the marketing, it's all there. And the
Mm,
episodes are between 15 and 30 minutes. So it's something that is
mm,
really easy to follow. And so
yeah.
even if you're not a physician, there's a lot to benefit from that.
Beautiful.
So the EntreMD podcast is a perfect place to start.
So how do you unwind? How do you unwind with all of this busy schedule, tight here and there? How do you unwind? How do you relax to refuel?
Well, so there are two things I do a lot of. One of is I take a lot of walks. I take a lot of walks because for me it is beyond
Okay.
refreshing. Like if I'm in nature, I'm happy. And so I take walks and I put my headphones
Mm,
in so nobody feels the need to talk to me because they think I'm listening to something.
mm.
Is very relaxing for me. You know, so
Yeah.
sometimes I'll do an hour on a Friday,
Hmm.
where I work a little less. I would even do 2 hours. I'm just outside, living my best life. Um, the
Yeah.
second, well, I'll give you three things. The second thing is I periodically would take time to go to the beach. Again, I think relaxation is about self-awareness. And I'm aware that being
Okay.
in nature like adds years to my life. Right. And so if I'm by the beach, I don't swim, don't tell anybody
Can say
except the
that
people who are
big.
listening. Okay. I don't swim, but I just want to be by the water. I just want to be
Yeah.
by the water, hear
Yeah.
the waves, all of that. That right there, I mean, it's just like stress washing off of me. Is the most unbelievable thing. And the third thing is I do recognize we live in a world where there are a lot of disappointments, there are a lot of challenges, there are a lot of setbacks, there's a lot of stress. So I really do spend a
Yeah.
lot of time with God. I just sit there and just pray. And I'm just like,
Mm,
because I refuse to bear the weight of the
mm,
responsibility of my life. Like I'm gonna do what I need to do, and the rest of
I
it, that's
love that.
that's
I
God's
love
job
that.
description. I'm like, I'm not doing that.
I love
I
that.
can't.
I love
Yeah.
that. I love that. I love that. The last thing you said is so refreshing, knowing that it is not my duty to take care of myself. It is his responsibility to take care of me. So what do? I just relax there, and refresh myself in his presence or in him, so to say, and get that inspiration and all that. It is so, so refreshing what you just said now. And a lot of us don't actually appreciate that. We want to do everything. We think we're here to take care of ourselves, forgetting
Yeah.
that we're
Yeah. But
here
it's
for
hard.
him to
You
take care
can't.
of us. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
If
yeah.
like
It's
I'll
go
say
on.
this because it's a very common, like the
Mm,
Psalm 23 is a very common psalm, right? Like the Lord is my
yeah,
shepherd, I shall not want.
shepherd.
And
Hmm.
and I used to read that meaning that if the Lord is my shepherd, then I shall not want. I'm like, oh Lord, be my shepherd, right? Unconsciously, but this is the way the narrative is
Mm,
playing in my mind. And then one day I
yeah.
felt like God was saying to my heart, He was like, you're a little confused. I am always the shepherd. Like Jesus
Mm,
showed up, He said, I'm the good shepherd, right? And
shepherd.
so
Yeah,
I'm the shepherd. The variable in this equation is not me, it's you. Are
it's
you going to
you.
take the disposition of the sheep? If you take the
Mm,
disposition of the sheep, I am guaranteed to be the shepherd and you shall not want. Yeah, it's not
preach,
me, it's
preacher.
you.
Preach,
so,
preacher. Preach,
so I'm
preacher.
like, okay,
Amen.
okay, Lord, I'm the sheep. So my job is to be as sheep like as possible so He could
That
take care of
is it.
stuff.
Amazing. Beautiful. I mean, what you just said now, it is so refreshing. Be a sheep. You just have to be a sheep. You know, like, we'll say it in our local parlance, when you say sheep is akin to somebody who is ignorant, or as we say it, mumu, and all that. But actually, in this sense, you are not a mumu. For my international audience, that simply means ignoramus, or somebody who is ignorant, and all that. You're not knowledgeable. But in this case, you are the sheep, and there is a shepherd. So refreshing. Guys, we've been discussing with Dr. Nneka Unachukwu, popularly known as Dr. Una. I describe her as the quintessential medpreneur. Yes, she is. I don't want to go there, but we've come a long way. Yes, guys, we have come a long way. And seeing her here, I can tell you, looking back, I see a transformation on every level. You know, she's not this as a then, as in boisterous. You always see her very calm. She doesn't want to be noticed in the crowd. Just let
Uh-huh.
me be and all that. But now I see somebody who is like, I want to leave and I am leaving, taking all the boundaries off me. I am super excited for you. Now, as a mother, you have 4 children, correct?
Yes.
How many boys? How many girls?
I have one boy, the second is a boy, and the other three are
Hmm.
girls.
So, how do you manage all of this with them? How do you manage all of this?
Well, okay, so now when someone looks at my life, right, it's like, oh my goodness, she's so busy. And granted,
Mm,
I do quite a bit, but I have learned that the only way to continue to go up is to let go of things, right? The only way to go up is to let go. And so
no,
I have
take that again. The only way
to go up is to
is
let
to,
go.
how do I let go?
Yeah, well, you have to let go of things. You have to bring a team on to take care of things.
Okay.
There's no way, right? And so I have a personal team, and so I have people who help with stuff at home, help me with the kids, help me cooking, cleaning, all of those kind of things, laundry, all of that. I have a
Mm,
team in each of my businesses, and I don't just delegate tasks like I delegate the thinking, right? I delegate the planning, like so I have teams that do a lot of things, so which gives me the bandwidth to still do what I need to do with my family. Now, I will tell you, in the beginning as an entrepreneur, I did not understand this concept.
mhm,
And my kids were much younger, and I had to put in sweat equity, right? Because it takes
mm,
money to pay a team, right? I had to
mhm,
put in sweat
mhm,
equity. And so I put that in, and I was gone a lot when they were younger. But I did it with the understanding that I'm doing this now so that because a time is coming when I'll have a
mm,
lot more time than anybody would have to be with my kids and invest in my kids. And
mm,
so I have a lot of teams now. That's just to start with. But on the other hand, I'm very clear that in the order of priority, my family comes before my business. And I'm not willing to help make the world better and then lose my children or my marriage or whatever.
understood.
I have no interest
Understood.
whatsoever in that. And so,
Understood.
because you asked about my kids, I'll tell you what I did with them. So, the
Mm,
younger two go to school, and I get to take them to school every day, right? Making up for lost
all
time.
right.
So I take them to school, I
Mm,
bring them back.
mm,
The older two, I did an experiment. Again, don't tell anybody. Okay.
I
Okay. So I
won't.
did an
I won't.
I did an experiment. And this was what I thought. When I think about, let's take basketball. When I think about the basketball greats, someone like
Mm,
Stephen Curry. Someone like Stephen Curry grew up on the courts. His dad was a basketball player. He grew up on the courts. He learned about these things early, and now he's one of the greatest of all time. And many of them are like that. And I'm like, well, I have developed myself so much over the years, and I want my kids to grow up on the courts, right? I put that in
mm,
quotations. I want them to grow
yeah.
up on the courts. I want them to, for everything I've done, I want it to be a stepping stone from them. Like, for instance, it took me forever to figure out entrepreneurship and,
Mm,
for me to own my voice and for me to be comfortable speaking in public and networking and all of that kind of stuff. I
yeah.
was like, there's no reason why my kids should go through that. Right. Like,
Yeah.
I've taken one for the team, I've done one. And so I was like, when it comes to faith, I have a really strong faith. They should not be starting from ground zero. When it comes to
Yeah.
leadership, business, character development, like I have these things down to a science. I was
Mm,
like, I need to give them. I'm not going to teach them basketball, but I can gift this to them, and they can build everything on top of that. So I
yeah.
homeschool them. I pull them out of school. I put them in an online school. So the
Mm-hmm.
online school takes care of the academics, and then
Mm,
I in on leadership, business, character development, and faith, and I teach
mm,
them on those. So they
mm,
both have businesses. They both lead small groups.
mm.
They like all of these things. They're doing all of that. It's
How old are they?
14 and 13.
They lead a business group.
No, they have businesses, and they lead small groups. They have their own little small groups and stuff that they lead. We
I,
put
I
that on
need
purpose so they can practice.
can they come and spend some time with me, with my kids?
We can arrange that just for you.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
So that's my experiment. But I
Yeah.
was like, I want to give them a leg up. I don't want them to start from where I started from. I'm
Mm,
like, I recognize the value in the transformation I've experienced, and then I want them to experience that as well. So yeah, that's
beautiful.
where we are with that.
This is real intention, as in you are intentional about it. You like, this is what I want. Yes, a little bit, maybe when you started, you had some like fear here and there or doubt here and there, but somehow you reinforced your faith in what you want. And somehow, like going back to what you said earlier about the relationship between the sheep and the shepherd, and it's like, I depend on you for this. And somehow, like, voila, this is happening. And it's amazing. It's amazing. And I think it's something we should reproduce, not necessarily copy for copy, but like, what can we learn from what Dr. Una has said here about, letting the children come on the courts. Let them come on the courts with you. Not necessarily you giving them commands here and there, but they're watching and seeing what mommy, daddy, this is how they handle it. So more or less, there's this, what I say, modeling. You know, it comes telepathically. Telepathically, like you just understand that, okay, this is how to handle this. Okay, this is how to handle this. I think it's what we need. It is what we need. All right. I know you're very busy. Thank you for this time, but I'm going to ask you this question before I let you go. COVID brought a lot of changes in the world, and a lot of us could not cope, and somehow we're grappling and all that. How did you navigate this change, the VUCA, as we call it, the VUCA change? How did you navigate it?
So the thing with COVID is, here it was pretty intense.
Hmm.
Um, but I'll tell you, authentically what how we handled that. The first thing is I made a decision that I
Okay.
was going to thrive no matter what.
No
How?
matter
I
what.
don't know. But I started
Mm,
with the decision. I was like,
mm,
and I did that. And, at this time, I was already leading people,
mhm,
entrepreneurs and all of that. I'm like, listen, guys, don't say what they're saying. Don't panic like they're panicking. We're
yeah,
going to thrive one way or another. This is not the first time that something bad has hit the earth. We'll figure it out
true,
and we'll keep it
true.
moving. And so that was the first thing. The first thing is I made a decision that I was going to thrive. And, now
Mm,
in the US, we're in the middle of a recession, hyperinflation, all of that. And same thing. I
mm,
came out as like, guys, it starts from a decision
mm,
to thrive. So that was the first thing. The second thing was really being flexible, right? This is
yeah,
the way we've
yeah,
always done that. Why?
yeah.
Why would you say that? This is the way I'm waiting for things to go back to the way they used to be. They're never going back. Stop it.
We're
Like,
never going
you know
back.
what I mean? And so
Hmm.
that ability to stay flexible and find out what is required in this time so I can
Mm,
do what is required in the time. So
yeah.
for instance, in private practice, so many private practices shut down, right? But we recognize people are not going to come in, but they'll do virtual visits and all of these
Mm,
things. And we just pivoted like real nice, real quick, real quietly.
mm,
just pivot and do that. And that's just one example. Same thing with, we pastor a church is the same thing. We've
mm,
switched over to really heavy on the online piece and, communicating with our people by phone and doing all these things. We never really shut down. Like I
yeah.
said, my husband's like a bulldozer.
Mm,
We bulldoze through
mm.
that. But at the same time, we paid attention to what was needed in the time, what was required of us. And then we did
Yeah.
that. So we actually worked harder in the pandemic than before that. Um,
Mm,
and so that was the second thing that we did. The third thing, now, I know that not every one of your listeners is a person of faith, but this is
mm.
my experience, right? So this is what we're
Right,
talking about. I'm not trying to
right.
throw anything on anybody,
Yeah.
but Isaiah 60 says something. It says, arise and shine, for your light has come.
Come.
There's darkness over the earth. There's gross
Mm.
darkness over the
Darkness.
people,
True.
but my glory is risen over you. And
Mm,
if there was ever a time that scripture was real, it was during the pandemic, right? There was darkness over all the people. There's darkness over the entire earth.
Yeah.
And in that, he's still saying, but he's not saying, so that's what happened. He says, but
But
because I remember I started adjusting my goals in 2020. Like, there's a pandemic and all of that. And so God was like, so my word is only true in the absence of a pandemic?
mm,
I was like, no, sir. Where you put it that way, no, sir. And it's like, you leave your goals the way they are. You ask me how to pull it off.
yeah.
And so I recognize that I can arise, I can shine, but the
Mm-hmm.
source of my exemption is him.
Mm,
So the way to escape is to go deeper in him,
in
right? You
him.
see, so then I went even deeper, so much deeper in my
Mm,
walk with him. In fact, that was a period that we started a daily like 6 a.m. prayer meeting, really, which has gone on since then. We're about to hit day 1000, if you can believe it. But
beautiful.
because I'm like, the deeper I go in him, the higher I can climb. The deeper I go in him, the more I'll be exempt from what's going on.
Mm,
And so that's
mm,
really what we did. But to be honest with you, the pandemic year was a rough year for the world. It was a
yeah.
rough year, period. But
Yeah.
when we look back at it, we actually did much better in
Yeah.
the pandemic year than the year before that. And the opportunities for growth and transformation and all
Mm,
of that were so much more. So it's one of those
beautiful.
things you're like, I don't want that to happen again, but I came out
Mm,
better for it. I came out so much better for it. Yeah.
amazing. You go deeper in him and you go higher in life. I
Hmm.
mean, I got that. So it's not a question of what the economy is saying. It's not a question of what the world and all that. But listen, his word is true. His word is true. And I am so glad having you on the show today to share this with my audience. People, you will agree with me, it has been an amazing time with Dr. Una. I mean, I am super grateful. Before I let you go, what is that thing you always release to your whoever is listening to you to take away and remember that I met somebody like Dr. Una?
Yeah. So it would be this. We have one life. We are
Hmm.
burning daylight, and we're all made for greatness. It doesn't matter where you're starting from. It doesn't matter what your past is like. It doesn't matter what family you come from. It doesn't matter. We are all made for greatness. And if you
Mm,
lean into the process of becoming that, if you
mm,
pay the price for it, you'll stumble upon it. And it's
mm,
it's beautiful. So don't hold back. Don't save your energy. Don't save, like, just go out there and do it all. One of the things that I think a lot about, Amakri,
mm,
is my 90th birthday party. I
mm.
think about my 90th birthday party a lot. I almost was like, I need to get someone to draw the 90-year version, yeah, make her cute, but 90th version, 90-year version of me.
So
And
you're
I'm like,
projected already.
yeah, but I attend that party often. And I'm like, what do
Oh,
I want them to say about me? What do I want to
mm,
have accomplished? What
mm,
legacy do I want to have left? I
yeah.
think about it, and then I come back here and say, knowing that, what should I be doing today? Knowing
Mm,
that, what bold steps should I be taking now? Knowing that, what fear should I dare and do it anyway? Because
yeah.
I want to get there and be her, right? I want
Beautiful.
to show up before God and I'm like, so Lord, what was the game plan? What did you really want me to do? And then when I read that
Mm,
book, it's like reading my life because I did it.
mm,
And so don't get so encumbered by the challenges and all those things. They will always be there.
mm,
Like, you see me smiling, it's not because there are no challenges. They're big challenges, but they will always be there. They don't go away. So they're distraction. What you want to be
yeah.
laser focused on is, I want to become everything I can be. When I die, I want to die empty. Like, the only thing the earth is getting back is my dead body. None of my
Yeah.
gifts, none of my talents, none of the dreams, none of the books I should have written, none of the songs I should have been sung, none of that. Like, all
Mm,
of that, I squeezed it all out.
mm,
You should plan to die empty. So today's a gift. Don't play with it. Don't be distracted by challenges. Don't be distracted by what people are saying about you or not saying about. Don't be distracted by eyes on the prize. Just
mm,
become everything you can be. That's what it's
mm.
all about. That's really all
Beautiful.
it's what it's about.
Guys, eyes on the prize. Today is a gift. Don't get distracted. The problems are always there. Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you, Dr. Una, for this time. I
Thank you
am
so much for having me. This was so good.
pleasure. This is so good. This is so good. I mean, I know that feeling when I leave here now and tell my wife, do you know who I had on the show today, and give her the background and all that. She was just like, it's like this period you've been catching up with everybody, so to say, from that time. Let me not expose it. That time. And
You might as well. Google is a thing. Yeah, you might as
exactly.
well.
Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you. Guys, you've heard it. And this is how we live our lives within this space, the word cafe. We come in here to lean on one another's experience to forge, like we always say it, a positive path. And honestly, you will agree with me, it has been an amazing time with Dr. Una. Well, till I come your way again. Bye for now. Dr. Una, what do you have to say?
Man, I love your crew. I love
Thank
your crew.
you.
You should, if you haven't already, you should subscribe to this podcast, and you should listen every single time it comes out. And you should share it with somebody else, because I mean, all it takes is somebody hearing one thing to
Yeah.
ignite them, to set them on fire for the rest of their lives, and they'll thank you for it. So if he's going to do the hard work and produce it, then you want to do your part, pay it forward by sharing it with someone else. It's just as simple as boom, share it. That's it.
Thank you. Guys, you heard it. Share it forward. Bye for now.